Welcome back, everyone. This is Geometry, Unit 1, Section 1-4. This is video 3 of 3. To start, we're going to talk about two words that are pretty similar, but they have their differences. The words are parallel and skew. Now, parallel is probably a term that you've heard before. A lot of people can draw parallel lines, which looks something like this, two lines that are never going to intersect. The only downfall is it's not a good enough definition, because skew lines are also two lines that are never going to intersect. So how do we distinguish the difference between them? Very simply, parallel lines are on the same plane, whereas skew lines are not on the same plane. Not on same plane. Okay, so I have a drawing down below. Please label the points as I have labeled such. Pause your video if you need to. Unpause it when you're ready to go. So we're first going to list segments that are parallel to segment WX. So I want to highlight segment WX right here. And notice how WX kind of moves from the front of the box to the back of the box. So as long as I pick any segment that travels in the same direction from that front to back movement on the box, I'm going to have myself a parallel line, or a parallel segment, excuse me. So if I look at segment ZY, segment ZY travels from front to back just like segment WX, therefore that segment is parallel to WX. Other segments that would work would be segment AB, that travels from front to back as well, or segment DC, another front to back segment. As long as you can find a segment traveling in the same direction as your original segment, it's parallel. Now let's move on to, I want to jump down to part C. I want to go a segment that is skew to WX. So two things I have to look for. I need a segment that doesn't run into WX at any point in time, because skew lines never intersect. And I also need a segment that's traveling in a different direction as WX. So let's look at, I'll just pick right here, segment DZ. Notice how DZ is an up and down segment. It travels up and down. WX travels from front to back. If I extended these forever, they would not intersect, and they do not fall on the same flat surface. Notice how segment WX falls on this top surface and this left surface, whereas segment ZD falls on the right surface and the front surface. Therefore, these are two segments that are skew. If I want to pick more skew segments, as long as I pick segments that aren't traveling in the same direction as WX and don't run into it, I have myself skew segments, such as YC travels up and down. BC travels in the back, from the back left to the back right. That's traveling in a different direction, doesn't intersect WX, therefore those segments are skew as well. So we'll write down for our answer, let's see, the first one we had was segment ZD. Lots of segments on there that are skew. Now if we look at a new segment, AD, so here's my new defined segment. If we start first with parallel, which is in part B, segments that are parallel to AD, again I'm just looking for segments that travel in the same direction from that left to right movement, which would be segments WZ, XY, and BC. Any of those would work for oops, wrote that in the wrong spot. Any one of those would work for parallel to segment AD. Lastly, if I want skew segments, segments that are traveling in a different direction as AD. So again, AD travels from the left to the right, so I'm really looking at segments that travel in a different direction than that and don't intersect with segment AD. So the first one I see is segment XB. Notice how it's an up and down segment. A to D is a left to right segment. XB is in the back, AD is in the front, therefore they're never running into each other. Here's more skew segments. We could have segment ZY. Notice how that's a front to back segment, whereas AD is a left to right segment. AD is towards the bottom and the front, and ZY is to the right and to the top. Therefore, they're never going to run into each other. Just take note that plane or parallel segments, they never run into each other, and they're on the same plane, whereas skew segments also never run into each other, but they are not on the same plane.